Hi, I am Fred from therequirementsengineer.com. In this video, I show you how to embed a Draw.io diagram with HTML. You will learn the exact workflow in Draw.io. And you will learn what the most important HTML embed settings mean. If you like practical tutorials about modeling and requirements engineering, please subscribe and hit the bell so you do not miss the next videos. What is Draw.io? Draw.io, also known as diagrams.net, is a flexible diagramming tool. I use it for flowcharts, process diagrams, UML models, network diagrams, and many other visuals. It is easy to start with. However, it also offers useful export and embed options for professional work. One of these options is HTML embedding. Why embed a Draw.io diagram with HTML? HTML embedding is useful when I want to place a diagram directly into a website. This can make a page more visual. It can make a process easier to understand, and it can make documentation more interactive. For example, instead of explaining a workflow only with text, I can show the workflow as a diagram. This helps the reader understand the structure faster. And if the diagram contains many details, HTML embedding can also support useful options like links, layers, tags, or a Lightbox view. Step 1. I open my diagram in Draw.io. In this example, I already have a diagram open. This can be in the Draw.io browser version or the desktop app. I use the desktop app here. However, the workflow looks very similar in both versions. In the menu, I click File. Now the File menu opens. Then I go to Embed, and from there I choose HTML. Now Draw.io opens the HTML embed dialog. This is where I define how the embedded diagram should behave. Thus, now I choose the configuration I need in step 3. Here I can see several options. Let me explain the options clearly. Include a copy of my diagram. This option includes a copy of the diagram in the generated embed code. So the embedded version contains the diagram data directly. This is useful when I want a self-contained embed. However, the generated code can become larger. Public URL of the diagram. This option uses a public URL of the diagram, so the embed points to an online version. This can be useful when I want the embedded diagram to reference a shared diagram source. However, the diagram must be publicly reachable. So I should only use this option when I understand where the diagram is stored and who can access it. Links. This controls how links inside the diagram behave. Automatic. The diagram uses the default link behavior. Open a new window. Links open in a new browser tab or window. This is often useful for websites because the current page stays open. Open in this window. Links open in the same browser tab. This can be useful in some internal documentation scenarios. However, on a public website, it may take the visitor away from the current page. Border color. This controls the border around the embedded diagram. I can use it to match the diagram with my website design. For a clean page, I usually keep this subtle. A strong border can make the diagram stand out, but too much visual noise can also look unprofessional. Appearance. This setting controls how the diagram appears. In many cases, automatic is a good starting point. It keeps the setup simple. And it usually works well for normal website embeds. Otherwise, I can choose the dark or the light theme deliberately. Zoom. Zoom defines the initial size of the diagram when it loads. For a simple diagram, 100% can work well. For a larger diagram, I may need a smaller value. The goal is simple. The reader should understand the diagram without too much scrolling or zooming. Fit helps the diagram adapt to the available space. This is useful for responsive websites. For example, the same page may be viewed on a desktop screen, a tablet, or a phone. So, fit is often a good option for website embedding. All pages. This option matters when the Draw.io file has more than one page. If I want to include all diagram pages, I can enable it. If I only want to show the current page, I leave it disabled. For a simpler article, one page is often enough. For detailed documentation, all pages can be useful. Layers are useful when my diagram contains different information levels. For example, one layer can show the main process. Another layer can show comments, and another layer can show technical details. So I enable layers only when my diagram actually uses layers. Text can help organize diagram elements. This can be useful in more advanced diagrams. For example, I can use tags for systems, roles, components, or process areas. For a simple diagram, I usually do not need this. For professional documentation, it can be helpful. To use what is predefined, I go with Use Current Settings for tags here. Lightbox lets the reader open the diagram in a larger view. This is very useful when the embedded diagram is small on the page. It is also useful when the diagram contains many details. So, if readability matters, Lightbox is often a good choice. Lightbox Edit. Here I can define what kind of edit action is available on the Lightbox. For example, I can allow make a copy. This is helpful when I want users to reuse the diagram as a template. There may also be a custom option for individual URL links. However, I only enable editing behavior when I really want visitors to copy or reuse the diagram. In short, I do not just click through this dialog blindly. Instead, I choose the settings based on my use case. Do I want a self-contained diagram? Do I want to use a public URL? Should links open in a new tab? Do I need layers or tags? Do I want a larger Lightbox view? That is the real decision here. Step 4. After I choose my settings, I click Create. Depending on the Draw.io version, the button may also appear as Embed. Now Draw.io generates the HTML code for me automatically. Step 5. I copy the generated code. This is the important part. Draw.io now gives me the HTML embed code snippet. I click Copy. And now the code is in my clipboard. So I do not need to write the HTML embed code manually. Draw.io prepares it for me. And after that, Draw.io confirms that the code was copied. I click OK. Now I can use the generated code where I need it. Step 6. I paste the code into my website. For a quick and easy demonstration, I use the WordPress editor. I open the post or page where I want to embed the diagram. Then I use custom HTML block and I paste the generated Draw.io HTML code into that block. You can also paste the code into another website system or into your own HTML page. The idea is always the same. I generate the code in Draw.io, then I paste it into the place where the diagram should appear. Now I preview the result. The Draw.io diagram appears directly inside the page. As I enabled Lightbox, I can click the diagram and open it in a larger view. When should I use this method? I use HTML embedding when I want more than a simple static image. This is useful for requirements engineering. It is useful for technical documentation. It is useful for process descriptions. And it is useful for system overviews. For example, if I publish a process diagram in an article, HTML embedding can make the diagram easier to inspect. Readers can view the diagram directly in context. And with the right settings, they can also open it in a larger view. So this is how I embed a Draw.io diagram with HTML. Open your diagram. Click File. Click Embed. Choose HTML. Configure options like copy or public URL, links, border color, appearance, zoom, fit, all pages, layers, text, Lightbox, and Lightbox Edit. Click Create or Embed. Copy the generated code and paste the code where you want to use it. If this video helped, support the channel. Please like the video and subscribe for more Draw.io tutorials. Also tell me in the comments, do you use HTML embedding mainly for interactivity, for documentation, or for sharing diagrams on a website? Thanks for watching, and I will see you next time.